What started as a cryptic tweet exploded into a full-blown legal spectacle that no one in the industry saw coming. On the morning of September 23rd, fans gathered outside the Manhattan Supreme Court, phones in hand, hoping to catch a glimpse of Nicki Minaj, not for a performance, but for a pre-trial hearing that's already being dubbed the most explosive rap litigation since the Wayne vs. Birdman saga. It's a legal showdown entangling three of the biggest names in hip-hop: Nicki Minaj, Cardi B, and Drake. The allegations: a confidential NDA breach that allegedly exposed high-stakes label sabotage, ghostwriting accusations, and a contract dispute tied to a leaked reference track that may or may not feature Drake dissing Cardi under Nicki's influence. The courtroom is buzzing. Fans are polarized. And the receipts? Well, they've started leaking on burner accounts, in diss tracks, and even in heavily redacted court documents. This is bigger than rap, says entertainment lawyer Alicia Grant. This case could redefine how NDAs function in the music industry. But behind the subpoenas and headlines lies a deeper question. How did a beef once seen as marketing strategy spiral into a case where careers and reputations might not survive? Courtroom number 9 at the Los Angeles County Superior Court was packed tighter than a sold-out stadium show. A fog of anticipation hung in the air, thick with the smell of perfume, legal pads, and industry paranoia, as camera crews jostled for last-minute shots outside, inside. The silence was broken only by the shuffling of designer heels and the scratch of pens. Seated across from each other, separated by a single aisle and a sea of tension, were two of the biggest names in hip-hop. On one side, Nicki Minaj, her legal team exuding cold confidence. On the other, Cardi B, flanked by advisors and an expression that gave away nothing. The case wasn't just about a diss track. It was about ownership, sabotage, allegations that blurred the already thin line between performance and personal vendetta. Court filings revealed a web of accusations that stunned fans and sent entertainment media into a frenzy. Among them, claims of lyrical defamation, breach of NDA, digital harassment, and even alleged interference with third-party contracts involving A-listers like Drake, who against his will found himself named in the crossfire. The scandal erupted 6 weeks ago when a leaked snippet of a yet-unreleased track titled "Bloody Bars" surfaced online. The voice unmistakably Nicki's, laced verse after verse with thinly veiled references to Cardi's family, marriage, and former legal troubles. Within hours, Cardi responded with a cryptic Instagram Live where she neither confirmed nor denied the subject of the track, but ended with a line that would later become part of the case. "I hope the label keep them emails safe because I ain't gon' take this lightly." Initially, the internet chalked it up to another rap beef. Nothing new, but what came next triggered the lawsuit and dragged the hip-hop world into a rare, high-stakes legal battle. Cardi's legal team filed a formal complaint alleging that the leak was intentional. It's part of a coordinated effort to damage her brand ahead of a major fashion endorsement deal with a European luxury house. They presented time-stamped emails and encrypted messages that, if authenticated, could prove that an insider close to Nicki had engaged in what they called a pattern of premeditated brand interference. Nicki's camp responded just days later, not just denying the allegations, but filing a countersuit. Their claim that Cardi had violated a long-standing private agreement between the two artists, an NDA allegedly signed in 2021. After an off-record reconciliation meeting brokered by mutual collaborators. The agreement, never before publicized, reportedly restricted either party from referencing the other in music or media in a disparaging or commercially damaging context. Legal experts were baffled. Few in the music industry had ever heard of such a clause between rival artists. "If that NDA is real, it changes everything," said Rachel Levinson, a well-known entertainment attorney based in New York. "It could mean that any diss lyric, social media post, even a meme, could become grounds for litigation. It challenges the very nature of hip-hop as a genre built on competition and response." The stakes only escalated when Cardi's team introduced a new piece of evidence: A voice memo from an anonymous source, allegedly a former member of Nicki's inner circle. In the memo, the speaker claims to have overheard conversations about timing a leak to coincide with Cardi's rollout week. Implying deliberate sabotage, the memo's authenticity remained under scrutiny. But it sent a shockwave through the courtroom and fandom alike. Outside the courthouse, fans clashed. Barbs and Bartagang flooded Twitter, TikTok, and Reddit threads with their own theories, splicing together clips, analyzing lyrics, even scrutinizing background figures in studio photos for hidden clues. A trending hashtag Bloody Contract, trailed the case's every development. Lines were drawn not just in fandoms but across the industry. Behind the scenes, several producers and collaborators began quietly backing out of projects with either artist, afraid of being subpoenaed or publicly associated with the fallout. And then came the Drake complication. On day 4 of the preliminary hearings, Cardi's team introduced subpoenaed communications between her camp and Drake's management. The emails, dated from a month before the leak, discussed a potential collaborative project titled Luxury Trauma. According to Cardi's team, the project was abruptly shelved just days after the snippet surfaced. The implication that the controversy had spooked Drake's label OVO into pulling the plug on a deal projected to be worth 7 figures in streaming and sponsorship revenue. Nicki's team objected immediately, arguing that Drake was a neutral party and that no causal link could be established. But the judge allowed the emails into the record, noting their relevance to the damages being claimed. Inside the courtroom, an audible gasp rippled through the spectators. It wasn't just about 2 rappers anymore. Now one of the biggest names in the world had been dragged into the drama, whether he liked it or not. Outside, the media feasted. Gossip blogs speculated on Drake's loyalty, noting his complicated history with both artists. Analysts brought up previous collaborations, alleged flirtations, and strategic absences. Even daytime talk shows dipped into the conversation, with pundits debating whether the hip-hop industry needed stricter legal frameworks or simply thicker skin. But the emotional heart of the case began to emerge in testimony. Cardi, taking the stand for a preliminary statement, spoke candidly if carefully about the personal toll. "This ain't just lyrics. This ain't just music," she said, her voice steady but visibly strained. "I got family who don't understand that it's performance. I got brands looking at me sideways because somebody wanted to go viral." Nicki, for her part, remained mostly silent in public, letting her legal team do the talking. But those close to her described a different scene behind closed doors. Sources reported heated exchanges between her and her label executives, concerns over tour deals in Europe, and the looming threat of breach of contract claims should she be found liable. And then, in a dramatic twist, a sealed document was introduced during a closed-door session between attorneys and the judge. What was in it remains officially undisclosed. But legal analysts speculated that it may have contained either a prior settlement offer or a confidential recording. Court sketch artists caught glimpses of tense body language as the document was handed over. Nicki's lead attorney was seen whispering urgently, while Cardi's team remained stone-faced. When the session ended, the judge ordered a recess and scheduled a formal evidentiary hearing. That move, rare at this stage, suggested that the court believed enough credible material had been presented to warrant a full-scale trial, one that could potentially result in damages, injunctions, and even a landmark ruling on the limits of artistic expression in contractually bound rivalries. Back outside, a protest had begun to form, not of political activists, but of fans, artists, and even upcoming rappers waving signs that read, "Let artists breathe and battle, not lawsuits." A young woman with blue braids, possibly a rising rapper herself, told a local reporter, "If they start suing each other over lyrics, we all gonna need lawyers before we write a hook." The music industry watched with bated breath, behind the glitz of PR statements and carefully curated interviews. The people in charge, label executives, streaming platform reps, endorsement managers were drawing up contingency plans. One insider at Spotify said off record, "We're looking into adjusting our conflict clauses." This case has every platform reevaluating how close we let artists get to direct confrontation. But the legal drama was far from over. As the next hearing approached, both sides were preparing for their most critical plays. Subpoenas were being issued to producers, stylists, and even social media managers. And in a quietly stunning move, Drake's legal team filed a motion to formally clarify his position as a non-interested third party, seeking to distance him from the chaos. Whether the court would accept that tour drag him deeper remained to be seen, and just when the dust seemed to settle, a new leak dropped. This time, it wasn't music. It was footage. Grainy, time-stamped, and allegedly taken from inside a studio session months prior. The figures in the clip weren't immediately identifiable, but voices could be heard, one of them sounding unmistakably like Drake. The studio footage spread across group chats and forums like wildfire. Though pixelated and clearly recorded without consent, viewers wasted no time in dissecting every frame. In the dimly lit space, a man matching Drake's silhouette leaned over a mixing console, nodding to a beat. Beside him, a woman with straight black hair and sharp acrylics paced back and forth, her tone clipped and urgent. Subtitles sodded by whoever leaked the video suggested phrases like, "She can't drop that the same week and get her calendar." Internet sleuths immediately claimed the woman was Nicki Minaj. Audio engineers weighed in on the sound design. Even body language experts began analyzing the gestures. The clip, only 38 seconds long, did something no court document had yet managed. It pushed the court of public opinion into a state of frenzy. Was this proof of intent? Or just two artists strategizing releases like everyone else in the industry? The court took the matter seriously. Cardi's legal team submitted the footage as supplemental evidence, filing a motion to authenticate it through metadata and studio session logs. In response, Nicki's team accused the leak of violating privacy laws and requested a suppression of the clip, arguing it was inflammatory, unauthenticated, and illegally obtained. Both teams demanded digital forensic experts, and the judge agreed to a closed hearing to determine admissibility. As fans speculated and media outlets refreshed their headlines, attention turned to Drake again. Within 24 hours of the footage leak, his management issued a statement. Drake was not aware of any planned sabotage, nor did he participate in conversations intending to harm the commercial interests of any artist. But the wording, carefully constructed, raised eyebrows. Some argued it sounded more like damage control than denial. Even industry veterans began to weigh in. A now-deleted tweet by producer Hitboy read, "The footage don't lie. Y'all just mad when receipts talk louder than bars." Meanwhile, legendary hip-hop journalist Elliot Wilson posted a cryptic message, "When the verse becomes a verdict, the culture pays the price." It was clear this wasn't just about Nicki and Cardi anymore. It was about the ethics of competition in the era of surveillance, leaks, and weaponized media. Back in court, Cardi's team unveiled a timeline they claimed connected the footage with internal communications from Nicki's camp. The timeline suggested that days after the studio session, emails were sent to a publicist known for planting stories on gossip blogs. Within a week, headlines began circulating online suggesting Cardi was losing brand favor and struggling to secure European sponsors. Cardi's lawyers argued that this pattern showed an orchestrated campaign of image erosion, one allegedly designed to scare off investors, collaborators, and fashion house's legal team, led by a seasoned litigator known for high-profile music cases, countered that no direct link could be proven between Nicki herself and the actions of third-party media handlers. You cannot hold an artist liable for the autonomous actions of individuals outside their legal authority, he argued, unless there is a signed directive or a paper trail tying Ms. Minaj directly to these moves. This is circumstantial noise. But the judge appeared less convinced. During proceedings, he questioned the timeline's consistency with previous filings and agreed to allow the forensic team access to the email metadata. If intent is central to damages, she noted, then pattern matters. And so the investigation deepened. Both sides ramped up digital discovery, digging into personal assistance texts, Slack threads from marketing teams, and booking communications between labels and third-party sponsors. Suddenly, the music industry's back and normally protected by layers of NDAs. Encrypted messaging and plausible deniability was under a legal microscope. Amidst all this, Drake's silence grew louder. His motion to be removed from the case as a third party was denied, meaning he could be subpoenaed for testimony if proceedings advanced. Insiders claimed he was furious, not just at the legal entanglement, but at the reputational risk. He had a major release coming up, and his brand, carefully curated over the years to avoid public drama, was now caught in a war he never signed up for. Privately, his team debated the nuclear option, testifying in court with limited immunity, offering context about the session and clearing his name. But that move came with a gamble. It meant choosing a side, however subtly. "He's walking a razor's edge," said one anonymous entertainment lawyer. "If he backs Cardi, he alienates Nicki. If he defends Nicki, fans will accuse him of complicity. And if he says nothing, everyone assumes the worst." Meanwhile, Cardi's camp began building their case around quantifiable damages. They presented a financial report showing that the luxury fashion deal in question, previously rumored, now confirmed to be with Maison de Clerc, a Parisian heritage brand, had been paused due to reputational concerns triggered by online chatter. Cardi's lawyer emphasized that the timing was too precise to be coincidence. Nicki's defense attempted to redirect, framing the conflict as a business dispute blown out of proportion by media hysteria. "This is not a criminal conspiracy," the attorney argued. "It's a misalignment of brand moments in a crowded marketplace." But the court wasn't just focused on business. Public sentiment was shifting, and so were the cultural stakes. At the heart of this controversy was a deeper question. Could the competitive nature of hip-hop survive in an industry that now penalized not just aggression, but even suggestion? An unexpected twist came when an anonymous former marketing executive appearing under voice modulation via video deposition testified that a significant percentage of artist campaigns are timed to overshadow others. While not illegal, the testimony validated Cardi's claim that strategic sabotage was part of the game. "But it becomes unlawful," the executive added, "when you knowingly interfere with contractual negotiations or violate binding agreements." And that's the line that may have been crossed here. Outside court, the mood was growing more volatile. Fans of both artists staged digital boycotts, harassed sponsors, and even doxed minor collaborators thought to have taken sides. Twitter temporarily suspended several fan accounts after personal addresses of both Nicki and Cardi stylists were leaked. By week 5, the court issued a gag order limiting what either artist could say publicly about the case. Still, that didn't stop coded messages from appearing in social media posts, cryptic emojis, unsubtle captions, and even silent unfollows. Hip-hop commentators began creating breakdown videos just to track digital behavior, analyzing who liked what and who stopped liking who. Through it all, and then came the bombshell. In a morning filing that took both legal teams by surprise. A third-party tech company, one previously contracted by Nicki's label for social media strategies, admitted an amicus brief. In it, they disclosed that one of their now terminated employees may have, without authorization, coordinated influencers' seeding of anti-Cardi narratives. The employee, whose name was redacted, had been paid via a cryptocurrency wallet linked to a private marketing fund. Suddenly, everything changed. The court ordered an emergency hearing to determine if the brief introduced new liability. Cardi's team saw it as validation of their entire case. Nicki's camp distanced themselves from the vendor, claiming they had no oversight over the execution of third-party digital campaigns. But the damage was done. A chain had been drawn, however faint, from intention to execution. And while Nicki had not personally authorized the moves, so her team claimed, the court now had reason to believe that her brand machinery may have crossed the legal threshold from competitive to coercive. The judge paused to consider a rare move, assigning a special investigator to determine the full scope of external influence on the reputations, contracts, and relationships damaged during the course of this feud, just as the courtroom began to settle. Cardi's lawyer stood and made a final statement for the day. "This is not just a matter of pride or ego," he said. "This is about what happens when the tools of power in entertainment are weaponized behind velvet ropes. Our client isn't just fighting for her name, she's fighting for precedent." The courtroom's energy shifted noticeably after the tech firm's admission. Gone was the cocky swagger of overpaid attorneys and calculated glances of rival fan entourages. In its place was a heavy, unresolved tension, like everyone in the room had finally realized this wasn't just about petty industry politics anymore. This was about liability, about strategy turned into sabotage, about intent. The judge ordered a 5-day recess to allow both legal teams to review the amicus brief and prepare for the possibility of a special investigation. The brief, submitted by Valina boutique digital strategy firm known for high-risk, high-reward influencer marketing, had introduced something the court hadn't seen until now: a trail. Indirect, encrypted, and clumsily executed, but a trail nonetheless. According to internal logs provided by Velian, a now terminated employee had accessed social analytics dashboards tied to Cardi's engagement metrics and then seeded negative content cross-key online platforms. What made it more damaging was the payment method. The employee had been compensated via a crypto wallet that had also received funds from a marketing pool earmarked for Nicki Minaj's European tour campaign. Nicki's team denied any link, stating that the fund was managed by third-party contractors and was not under direct creative or operational control of the artist herself. But to Cardi's team, it was a smoking gun. If you don't pull the trigger, but you load the gun, do you still walk away clean? Cardi's lead counsel asked during a closed-door session. The judge didn't respond immediately, but her silence spoke volumes. Media response was swift and unforgiving. Headlines across the board read like postmortems, sabotage, or strategy. Minaj marketing firm under fire, hip-hop's digital war just turned legal. Op-ed columns debated the implications, with some calling it a slippery slope toward censorship, while others pointed to the increasing corporatization of rap battles. Longtime fans began posting old interviews, resurfacing moments where Nicki or Cardi had hinted at industry manipulation. Coded language now seen in an entirely new light. And then came the subpoena. On the 6th day, the court issued a formal order requiring Aubrey Graham-Better, known as Drake, to appear for deposition. The request was specific: clarify the nature of the studio session caught in the leaked footage, confirm or deny involvement in any promotional timeline strategies, and speak to the status of the aborted luxury trauma project with Cardi. Drake's legal team immediately filed an objection, citing his status as a non-interested third party and arguing that his involvement would unfairly position him in a dispute that had already drawn battle lines. The objection was denied. The court ruled that his participation was now central to understanding the full impact and intent of disputed collaborations. Within hours, #Drake testifies started trending. Memes flooded social platforms, depicting him in judge robes, referencing old lyrics with courtroom puns. But behind the humor was genuine curiosity and concern. For over a decade, Drake had managed to remain largely apolitical within hip-hop's messy gender wars. Now, he was forced to choose between silence and clarity, and both came at a cost. Internally, his label OVO was in crisis mode. Executives debated whether to delay his upcoming release, fearing backlash from either fan base. Sponsors, including a major sportswear brand, requested private briefings on the situation, worried that Drake's association could spill over into their own reputational risk. One marketing rep told a Canadian news outlet, "It's like watching a diplomatic country suddenly dragged into a civil war they were only loosely allied with." The day of the deposition, Security was heightened around the courthouse. Drake entered through a private side door, his face hidden behind sunglasses and a gray hoodie. No cameras were allowed inside, but transcripts later revealed a calm, composed, and strategically vague testimony. He confirmed the studio session did take place, that Nicki was present, and that they had discussed release timelines in general industry terms. He denied any knowledge of sabotage, stating that nothing in that conversation, to my memory, involved Cardi B or her deals. But it was his final answer that stirred the most debate when asked whether he believed the leaked track by Nicki was intentionally timed to disrupt Cardi's endorsement deal. Drake paused. Then through all of this, one truth was becoming harder to deny. The case had metastasized into something larger than either artist. It had become a mirror to the entertainment industry's most uncomfortable truths about exploitation, silence, manipulation, and the price of power in a world that watches records and replays every moment. And just when both sides seemed braced for trial, the unexpected happened. A sealed envelope was hand-delivered to the court clerk. No return address, no signature, just a single flash drive. When the judge received it, she immediately cleared the courtroom and called for a private review session with both legal teams. What was on that drive would change the course of the case. The courtroom sat in eerie silence. As the judge returned from her private chamber, the flash drive now locked inside a fireproof case. She looked visibly unsettled. A rarity for someone who'd presided over high-profile cases ranging from music royalties to Hollywood defamation suits. After a long pause, she spoke directly into the record. This court has received a piece of evidence whose contents, if authenticated, may materially alter the scope, liability, and trajectory of this trial. Both parties will be granted access in the presence of a neutral digital forensics expert. Until such review is complete, all further arguments are suspended. Whispers broke out across the room. Cardi leaned forward, eyes sharp. Nicki's lawyer tapped notes furiously. Outside, the press had already begun speculating what could possibly be so sensitive that it halted an entire legal proceeding. Social media went into overdrive. Hashtags like #TheDrive and #CourtLeaks trending across platforms within minutes. TikTok videos with theories ranging from confession recordings to NDA-breaking emails began circulating with alarming speed. 3 days later, the findings were made public in a sealed hearing summary, portions of which were subsequently leaked by an anonymous source inside the courthouse. The flash drive contained 3 distinct folders: raw studio audio files, a chain of internal emails from a music publicity agency, and most damning screen-recorded footage from a Zoom call involving Nicki's tour management team. In the footage, dated just weeks before the leak of the Bloody Bars snippet, a marketing strategist is seen presenting a document titled Competitive Calendar Disruption Model. He walks the team through a chart showing key moments in Cardi's rollout, including her endorsement timelines, projected video drops, and international tour reveals. One voice, believed to be that of Nicki's then digital director, can be heard saying, "If we seed a studio tease during her Paris campaign window, we own the news cycle." Another voice, unidentified but male, responds, "Make sure it's just messy enough not to get lawyers involved." Though Nicki herself does not appear or speak during the call, the meeting was held under her brand's official Zoom account, and the participants included members of her touring and marketing staff. Cardi's team wasted no time. They filed an amended complaint citing willful misconduct, requesting punitive damages and a formal public apology. They also submitted a motion requesting temporary restraining measures on Nicki's digital outreach until the trial concluded. Nicki's lawyers moved swiftly to mitigate. In a prepared statement, they distanced the artist from the video. The actions of independent contractors do not equate to direct authorization from our client. Ms. Minaj did not attend, contribute to, or benefit from the specific campaign discussed. We condemn any strategy that undermines artistic integrity. But by this point, the distinction between contractor and collaborator mattered little to public opinion. Media analysts began calling it the Zoom leak heard around the industry. A well-known entertainment columnist wrote, "This wasn't beef. This was corporate warfare disguised as culture." Behind closed doors, the judge convened with both parties and proposed mediation as an alternative to dragging the case through full trial. With reputations, finances, and fan bases on the line, it became clear that neither side could afford a prolonged legal bloodbath. But Cardi wasn't ready to settle without consequences. Her demands were sharp: a formal public statement from Nicki acknowledging the misconduct within her team, a charitable contribution to a fund for up-and-coming female rappers negatively impacted by online smear campaigns, and joint participation in a restorative roundtable on media ethics in hip-hop, broadcast by a neutral outlet. Nicki's team initially balked. Admitting fault, even indirectly, was risky. It could mean lawsuits from sponsors, canceled partnerships, or worse, admission of breach in unrelated contracts. But as negotiations wore on and the Zoom call continued to dominate headlines, the weight of reputational collapse loomed larger than pride. Finally, an agreement was reached in a joint, though carefully worded, video statement released via Complex Media. Both artists appeared separately, reading prepared messages. Cardi spoke first. "I brought this case not for clout." Was justice served? Or was this just another chapter in a long, tangled story of fame, fear, and control? The truth is, in a world where algorithms amplify drama and silence can be interpreted 1,000 ways, maybe there are no clean victories, just shifting power. What do you think really happened behind closed doors? Were Cardi's losses the price of visibility? Was Nicki the architect or just another piece on the board? And what about Drake? Did he stay neutral, or did he play the perfect hand? Tell us in the comments what side of the truth you believe. Hit subscribe for more stories where the lines between music, and justice are anything but clear. Because in this industry, every beat has a backstory, and not all of them make it to the charts.